Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back. It's your boy Kenny bringing you another spoiler filled review. Today, we're discussing something that went a little under the radar. It's an indie horror flick, more of a thriller, really, titled The Night House. You saw the thumbnail I created, just like everyone else watching the episode right now. And if you're watching the episode, click that like button, man. Make sure you hit that subscribe as well. Leave a comment. We definitely want to hear from y'all. And if you saw this movie or have any interest in it, we want to hear from you. So let us know down below. If you're checking us out on the podcast feed, we definitely want you to hit that download button. It helps us out immensely and helps the channel grow leaps and bounds and helps us with future sponsorships and partnerships and opportunities out there in the broadcasting world. And to all the people that have clicked the download button so far, I believe we're getting close to 160 downloads on the overall Fandom Frequency podcast network. So much love, guys. Thank you so much. Deep down, it really means a lot that you guys have been supporting the show so much in its infancy. So thank you so much. With no further ado, let's get right into this review, man. And this film is directed by David Bruckner, who has done another somewhat known horror movie, a little under the radar, but he's definitely known in the genre world. He did Netflix's 2017-2018 flick, The Ritual. Really, really well done film. I really dug it overall. I think it took place in Norway. A group of friends were hiking or whatever and end up coming across this crazy ass creature, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff ensues. And I really enjoyed that film and love his overall direction and his directing style and the way that he really can make a creepy film, and he definitely succeeds with that here, man. This film is starring Rebecca Hall as the main character, Beth, and she just lost her husband, Owen, who shot himself in the face at the lake right outside their house that he actually built, because he is an architect and they actually built the house and he did all the plans and they actually built it together and everything. And he ended up shooting himself in the face out of nowhere. She had no idea this was coming, didn't know he had any mental issues or anything like that. So all that goes down and she's left devastated, alone in the house she built for them to share their life in. And she wonders why. Why would he do such a thing? And that's where all the creepiness ensues, man. But the one thing I want to highlight with this off the bat is the director, David Bruckner, and the writers, who I got written down right here, Ben Collins and Luke Protowski. You guys wrote a very, very, very well done script, man, because the film doesn't get into all the ghost stuff and everything right away and the haunted house element that this film is bringing. They really just go straight into the drama and the trauma and the depression that Rebecca Hall's character Beth is going through, and what anyone would go through when they suddenly lose a loved one, especially in a very violent and tragic way like that. You know what I'm saying? We've all been there where we lost a loved one suddenly, so this goes right into her trauma and her being a school teacher and having to go put in grades and all this stuff, and she's trying to get back to reality, so to speak, and get back to her life just after the funeral at the beginning of the film. And even her colleagues and her friends, her main friend actually, Claire, a good friend of hers that works at the school in another department. I don't remember what she teaches, or even if they say it, honestly. I don't think they really highlight that. But anyway, her friend Claire even tells her, no one would have expected you to be here, you need to go home, take some time and grieve, Everyone needs to go through that grieving process, you know what I'm saying? But she's like, nah, I'm good. And she's trying to, bury it underneath the surface, like a lot of people do, and even I've done in the past when dealing with loss of a loved one and going through that grieving process. Sometimes you try to bury it down deep, but it's not going to stay there. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to boil up to the surface. Any negative emotion or any thing that you're going through is going to do that. That's the one thing that's so well done when you come to the haunted house element of this film, because that all starts to boil to the surface right as her grief and her depression is really setting in and really taking over her life, you know what I mean, and really dragging her down and making her just very reclusive, and people are telling her, you need to get out of that house and just move on. So she puts the house on the market. But once all this stuff starts going down with the ghost and the haunted house element of this house, she starts to, investigate and go into his past and try to figure out what the hell is going on with this guy. What the hell was Owen doing? Why would he do this to himself? What did he mean in this death note that he left, in this letter that he left, and it said, like, there's nothing else after you. You're right. There's nothing. You're safe now. And that whole thing goes into the fact of back in the day, in Tennessee, I believe, where she's from, before she even met her husband Owen at like 17, she had a near death experience, or she pretty much died for like several minutes. Her heart stopped, and she was in this terrible car accident, and she barely survived. And somehow they revived her and got her out of it. But once they did, people would ask her, and she even told Claire about it later on in like the second or third act or the second act of the film, that she pretty much died for a little bit, and people would ask, like, what was it like and how did you feel? And she was like, I didn't feel anything. I didn't see anything. But the real thing that happened was this demon or this ghost or whatever you want to call it, this apparition, this spirit followed her back to our world, you know what I'm saying, but couldn't really get to her until he ended up getting to her husband Owen and was using him as a conduit to try to get to her and to try to bring her down and get her back, because she kind of escaped death in a way. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Final Destination, how death is kind of coming for you because you cheated it or kind of survived in a weird way. But this is much more of a real, more realistic approach to someone that's kind of questioning their reality and not sure really what's going on. So she starts investigating and going into Owen's past and trying to figure out what's going on. And she ends up discovering all these weird secrets of all these women that look similar to her and stuff like that, and all these women that he was going around and seemingly cheating on her with. But what he was doing was he was killing a bunch of these women, and except for one that actually got away, that he actually kind of pulled back from and was gonna kill her and choke her to death, but he didn't end up doing it. And Beth ends up confronting her at her place of business, where she found this book he was reading up on this weird shit, really demonic looking, what would you call it, like an idol or some kind of totem or some kind of item that he was using, or had something to do with like this apparition. I guess he kind of did some research to figure out what this was that was messing with them, and he was kind of getting the whispers in his ear from the spirit to go through this whole process to get her and bring her back. But he was killing all these women that looked similar to her to try to trick the spirit, and it worked for a while. But then he would keep coming back and said, bring her to me or whatever, and he would keep killing these women and bringing them to this opposite version that was a reverse of the design and the blueprint and the layout of the home that they lived in. He went to the other side of the lake and built an unfinished version of this house similar to it to even try to trick the spirit. So he went pretty far to try to get rid of this thing. And it's pretty tragic, man. And she just didn't know any of this, you know what I'm saying, going up. So he just takes himself out, thinks they got rid of the spirit, but the spirit's still there, and the spirit wants Beth. You know what I'm saying? And that whole haunted house element and the way that she's discovering this slowly but surely throughout the film is really well done, man. Like the first two acts, especially of this movie, are really dope, man. Like I really liked it. I was on the edge of my seat. And there was one particular sequence, haunted house style, the typical type of stuff, turning on the lights or doing a bunch of stuff like that. But the way they would visualize the spirit and the way that they were doing certain things and moving the camera around was very unique and different to the haunted house like genre. You know what I'm saying? And it really freaked me out at a certain point in this sequence. Like I was genuinely like scared and like anxious, like, oh shit, like what's about to happen right now? Like, damn. Like this movie was really well done. Like when it wanted to go into those horror elements instead of just the thriller drama elements, it was very well done and rode the line perfectly between the two genres pretty much all the way throughout the film, man, even into the ending sequence, you know what I'm saying? Which is freaking harrowing, man. It is terrifying. She's about to literally do the same thing he did and shoot herself with the same gun that he used, the same handgun, man. She was about to shoot herself in the face in the boat that he used because the spirit was pretty much doing the same thing. And to her friend, played by Vondi Curtis Hall, Mel, her next door neighbor, and her friend Claire went to go check on her towards the end of the film here because Beth had called Claire and told her, "Hey, man, I figured it out. I know what Owen was doing. He was doing some terrible stuff, and I found something." And I need you right away. And then she ended up getting, contacted by the spirit and angered it a little too much, I guess. And it ended up taking control of her. And she ended up going through all these visions and seeing the different murders that happened with the different women and stuff like that. And all this crazy stuff was going on. And by the time the spirit got a hold of her and got a firm grip on her, she was outside in the lake, in the boat near the pier, about to shoot her face off until Claire and them got to her just in time. And she ended up pulling through and resisting the spirit at the end, and ended up getting the courage to not take her own life, to go on with her own life, and to move forward and to get rid of this once and for all. And it was a really cool, poetic way, and at least the way I took it was like, you could even kind of infer or kind of even think that maybe all the ghosts were just in her head, right? Maybe it's all in her head and she didn't even see any of this stuff. And really, she was just dealing with the grief and was so deep in her depression that she ended up getting suicidal. You know what I'm saying? You could take it either way. But the way that or not the way, but the thing that I like about the ending of this film and the way that they wrapped it all up, and at least the theme that I was getting from it, was just moving on from that grief, from that trauma, and fully accepting where your life is now and that that person's gone and you got to move on with your life because you're still here and you still have a purpose to fulfill, and you have, plenty more life to live and more things to do, and there's a lot more to live for. Just because that person's gone doesn't mean you're gone. So that's the thing I really love with this film. And it's really well done, and I loved that whole thematic element with the ending of this movie, man. Because at first I was like, "Wait, is this really happening? Is she just tripping out? Like, what the hell's going on?" You know what I'm saying? But luckily, it was really well done, and they wrapped it up in a way that is still somewhat ambiguous, and you can kind of interpret it for yourself and take it how you want it. You know what I mean? Choose your own adventure and read it the way you want to. But the way that I read it was there was real ghost stuff going on, but she was dealing with that real life trauma and that real life grief, and that grieving process is different for everybody, and there's multiple stages to it, of course. So everyone's going to go through different stages at different times, and the way they deal with it is unique to the individual and the situation. So the way they handled it with this film was so well done, man. And giving a shout out to a few of the actors. Sarah Goldberg, that played her friend Claire, she was really good in the film, and I thought her performance was really like understated but very like sincere and well done. And Vondi Curtis Hall, who I've seen in a few other films in the past, he's a really solid actor and did a really good job here of playing that concerned neighbor that knew a few details and knew a few secrets, but wasn't in on it in a sinister way or anything like that. But he was really good in the film, and like I said, her husband, who was only sparingly in there, played by Evan Keat. I probably butchered that last name, of course, but he did pretty good with the small role that he had as Owen in the film. He was only in flashbacks and videos and stuff like that, and a few of the haunted house sequences towards the end there, but I thought he played a good job of playing the creepy husband or whatever. And Rebecca Hall kicked ass in this movie, and I always knew since I seen her in Iron Man 3 back in the day that she was a great actress, and she really proves it right here, man. She has to go through so many emotions and different like fucked up scenes in this movie, man, and she really delivers it with every chance she gets. And even kind of has a few quips and a few funny lines in there in kind of a like a dark way, you know what I'm saying? So the way that she really played this film and played this character Beth and really showed someone going through that grief and going through that pain in such an organic and real way. You know what I'm saying? And her performance was stellar, and all the actors were really good in this film. But the directing, the writing, the score, cinematography, and Rebecca Hall's acting was just phenomenal. I cannot recommend this movie enough for all my horror thriller fans out there. And if you just want a good drama or something different that isn't necessarily like a big budget superhero flick or some crazy, action movie or sci-fi or whatever, if you want something a little more grounded, a little more creepy, a little more real, a little more deep, a little more heavy, and a little more to chew on, you know what I'm saying? You want something kind of not dark and depressing, but if you just want something really dark and something emotional and something that's going to really make you think, you know what I'm saying? The Night House is a really great one. I highly recommend this movie, y'all. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, man. It's a very good, very well done movie. Just short of great, you know what I'm saying? Just for whatever reason, it didn't necessarily blow me away, but it's definitely a movie I plan on owning in the future on that shelf right there. And I can't recommend it enough, man. David Bruckner, hats off to you, brother. You did a great job with this movie. Rebecca Hall, I can't wait to keep watching everything you've been doing, The Gift, all that good stuff, and anything I've missed, I got to catch up on because you're awesome. So if you ever see this review, much love to you and much love to the cast and crew that did a great job behind the scenes. Very good sounding, very good looking movie. So make sure you go out and support this thing. Get out to the closest theater you can if you're not too scared of all the pandemonium craziness going on. If you got those shots, all that good jazz. No politics here, but if you feel safe, go see the movie. If you don't, definitely check this out when it gets on your on demand or pick it up on DVD. I'm sure it won't, Blu-ray, whatever, 4K. I'm sure it won't be too expensive, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, thank you for checking out the review. Thank you for checking out the show. Click the like and subscribe if you're watching us over here on YouTube. Make sure you click that download if you've been listening to the episode and you've been listening to us. And if you got any friends or family or colleagues that like podcasts, they want to talk pop culture, they want to nerd out, make sure they visit us here at Fandom Frequency. We're all over the social medias. And we're going to be seeing you real good with some more horror goodness. We got some Candyman coming. You know what I'm saying? So don't say it 3 times so I can make sure I see you guys on that review. We got plenty of other stuff coming. Marvel's What If. Shang-Chi's just around the corner, about to roundhouse kick everybody with that spoiler review. So make sure you stick around and check out all the goodness, man. So stay tuned. Don't sleep. I'll catch you on the next one.